Hello and welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on MTV that has crowned its new champions. That's right, we're talking about The Challenge Season 40 Battle of the Eras Episode 19, Part 2 of the final, the finale of the regular season before we get into a two-part reunion. And I'm going to do things a little bit differently in this review and recap. First of which, it's going to be a little heavier on the review than the recap, as there's not much to recap in this episode. And instead of starting where last episode left off, let's jump to the ending of this episode as TJ gives us some pertinent information about the tallying of the scores and how the winners were determined. As we heard from last week, every checkpoint is going to give people points based on the placements of how they finish. First place gets 4 points, second place gets 3rd points, so on and so forth. What was a huge question mark was the karma vote. How much was it going to affect the results of this final? Come to find out, the karma vote equated to 2 checkpoints. So out of the 8 finalists, the 4 men and the 4 women, whoever had the most karma points for the men and the women would get first place, 4 points times 2. Whoever had the second most will get 3 points times 2, and so on and so forth. I will say that it could have been much worse. It could have been a 50-50 split. Now, just saying that something could be worse doesn't mean that what we got was great or a good decision. In my humble opinion, I would rather the karma votes not be a part of the season or format at all. And I definitely don't think they should have been used in the final specifically to determine the placements of the players. But again, we'll get into all of that once we get to the review portion of this review and recap. I'm now going to touch on the 3.5 checkpoints, where everybody placed, what I thought about them, starting with where last episode left off, and that was the coin counting. As we saw, Jenny was not having it, and so at a certain point, she just started dumping coins into her box and then gave a rather decent estimation of what she felt the coins were going to be, and then she went and slept. She wasn't feeling it, so why stress yourself out and stay there longer when you could just get some sleep and kind of be ready for day 2 a little bit better than everybody else who did have to stay there for an extra hour or 2. Unless you're Tori, who stayed there until 4:30 in the morning. Unfortunately, her strategy of taking the most time actually backfired on her, and she was the most off. The rest of the players placed with Derek and Rachel getting first place, Jordan and Michelle getting second place, Kylan and Jenny getting third place, and Bananas and Tori getting 4th place. Not a great way to end day 1 heading into day 2. But everybody pressed forward going into the next checkpoint, checkpoint 5, called Submerging Terror. Players were going to have swim, get to a raft, swim inside a cave, grab a paddle, bring it back to the raft, retrieve a key that is in a cage underneath the water, and then use the key to undo a canoe, and then paddle back to the Sinister. You can tell that everybody is exhausted and the fatigue is setting in, as we hear from Jordan saying like, this is getting tough. And even when he retrieves his paddle first, he says that he needs to catch his breath at the raft before diving to get his key. And while he is catching his breath, everybody else catches up to him, making it a sort of free-for-all until we realize that Jordan is not human and he is able to just get this key, paddle out, even though he says that the paddling was the toughest part for him. He was able to not stop, focus on, and continue with the pattern of getting first place. Jenny, who had a struggle getting up on the raft initially, was also able to lock in first place. Derek and Tori got second place, Bananas and Rachel got third place, and it's unfortunate for Michelle because she was out in front of the women for a while, getting to the cave first, grabbing her paddle, coming back to the raft, but she had a little bit of difficulties retrieving her key, getting up onto the raft, which shout out to Kylan for helping not just Michelle, his closest ally in the game, but also Rachel, being a good sportsman. Michelle then had troubles getting the boat off the raft, losing her paddle. She even tells TJ once she gets to the Sinister that she also had her boat like floating away from her at some point as well. So this checkpoint really kind of went all over the place. I kind of think back to day 1 of the final with Ghost Ship with Michelle, where it's like she got there first. She was out with a lead, and then these stumblings happened within the checkpoint that, as we'll see, those little stumbles caught up with her, and it ultimately cost her this game. The 6th checkpoint, TJ points to a sandbar in the middle of the ocean, telling everybody to swim there and meet him for a drink. Now, everybody, including myself, thought that this would be an eating portion, which luckily there was no eating portion. This is called Mathematical Leisure Speed Mathing Competition, where TJ would give them a basic math equation. The first one to get it correct would be able to go swim back to the Sinister, while the other person had to stay and go up against another person. They also had coconut water for everybody. The last two checkpoints of this final, there wasn't a lot of meat to it. There's not a lot to do. Jordan is able to win against Jenny in round 1. Then it's Michelle versus Jenny, where Jenny wins. Then it's Michelle versus Rachel, where Rachel wins. Then it's Michelle versus Tori, where Tori wins. Derek sits down and Michelle is pleading, please, just let me get this. I can catch people. You have time. Derek initially agrees to let Michelle have it, but it starts to set in with Derek. What if Banana wins against me? Then I'm waiting for Kylan to get to the sandbar. And then what if he beats me? I'm locking in 4th place. I am happy that Derek came to that realization and then just took it. Because Michelle was taking her time. Yes, she was under the guise that Derek wasn't going to say anything, but this is the final. I'm sorry, but friendships are kind of null and void once you get to this point, and I'm glad that Derek, who instantly got 36, was like, I just gotta go for it. It's Michelle versus Bananas, where Michelle has more brain power than Bananas at this moment in the final, takes off, and I was just talking about Michelle having a little bit of stumbling blocks in checkpoint 5, but in this 6th checkpoint, she kicked it to another gear, which was highly impressive. She was able to outswim Tori and Rachel, catch up to them, surpass them, and get 2nd place for this checkpoint. Kylan was able to outmath Bananas. Bananas just had to sit there. Production told him that Kylan got back to the Sinister and you can swim back, which he took his sweet time. The 7th and final checkpoint is called Champions Cove. Players have to swim out to a buoy, get a sea scooter, go into a cove, dive down for your token, get back on your sea scooter, and come back to the Sinister. Lock in your final placement, as this is the final checkpoint, and this is one of those checkpoints where there's not a whole lot to it. This is just for like the last stretch. Use it as a reflection. Get some cool shots as maybe Michelle talks about her journey of getting to this point, Banana's journey, Jordan. Everybody gets a little moment of talking about how hard the final was and what this season means to them. We see this every single final. The placements for checkpoint 7 is Jordan 1st, Michelle 1st, Bananas and Rachel 2nd, Derek and Tori 3rd, and Kylan and Jenny 4th place. So now with everybody waiting on pins and needles to hear the final placements, the results of this final, TJ tells everybody what the karma vote was. It's no surprise that Derek and Rachel scored the most karma points out of everybody in the final, so they each get 8 points each. 2nd place with the karma votes is Kylan and Tori, getting 6 points each. Jordan and Michelle take 3rd in the karma voting, getting 4 points each, and Bananas and Jenny get 4th place, getting 2 points each. Once the scores are tallied and the karma points are added into the final scores, on the men's side, karma points are not, the results stay the same, with Jordan winning, as he should, getting 6 first place finishes out of 7, getting his 5th challenge win in his challenge career, tying CT as the player with the 2nd most challenge wins in challenge history, taking home $400,000. In 2nd place is Derek. With his 8 karma points, he gets closer to Jordan in the final standings, but it does not matter. He takes 2nd place, karma points or not, and takes home $75,000. Bananas takes home 3rd place, getting $25,000, and Kylan got 4th place, and a valiant effort in his first final appearance. The real shakeup happens on the women's side of the voting. Tori gets 4th place, even with her 6 karma points. It wasn't enough to spring her into 3rd place, and she gets 0 monies. TJ announces that Michelle drops down from 2nd place all the way to 3rd place, and she's taking home $25,000 and came 1 point away from being crowned a challenge champion, with her final score with the karma points getting 23, where 1st place had 24 points. With Rachel's plus 8 karma points, she leapfrogs from 3rd place to tied for 1st place with Jenny, who has been beasting out these finals, but because she didn't have great karma with the cast over the course of this season and banking in only 2 karma points. Now, when I heard that there was a tie, I thought there would be some sort of tiebreaker, like TJ saying, Rachel, because you had the most karma points between you and Jenny, you will get 1st place, Jenny will get 2nd place. And I thought that was a big possibility. Instead, TJ just says that Rachel and Jenny gets to share the title, and they will share $400,000 and the $75,000 from 1st and 2nd place. So each are taking home $237.5 thousand each. All right, time for my thoughts First, I want to talk about the final overall. I thought it was fine. I think it was definitely difficult, but I don't think it was the toughest. I think having only 7 checkpoints, I think it could have been a 2-hour like special. There were some checkpoints that I think were a highlight. I think day 2 was a little bit tame, but given that the players have not eaten a lot in between day 1 and day 2 and the sleep deprivation, I think they wanted to go easy on them on day 2, and I say easy on them even though they were going through a lot on both days. So I definitely see and agree with everybody that it was very repetitious with the swimming puzzles and then come back, swimming puzzles and come back. I like that it was different, but at the same time, I think it could have been done a little bit better. Now on to the main course, and it's these karma points. And you know what? At this point, I'm just tired. I'm just tired of these concessions made and how friend forward it feels that the challenge has become in the more recent seasons. Like we just got All Stars 4 where everybody's handing out stars and everything, whereas here it's karma points. And my frustration is, and I agree with Bananas and Kylan on Bananas podcast last week, that these karma points aren't karma in the sense that this is stuff that happened this season for the most part. These karma points are just like who are your friends and who did you not really click with in the handful of weeks that you were in the game, I talked about this on Patreon, but having the purge of 8 players, like in day 2 or 3 of players being in this game and 8 players just like wiped from the game, that is a quarter of everybody's karma points. And that is so unfair to the newer players like Michelle and Jenny who don't have these connections or have been on a ton of the seasons, especially with players that have just returned to the flagship show after quite some time away. They're gonna go with their 20-year-old friendships, 16-year-old friendships, players that they played 8 to 10 seasons with, that they've hung out with, and not really consider what's going on in this game for the most part until you get to players like Tori and Aviv who stuck around for quite some time. If we had to have the karma points at all, they should have been used before the final. Or if they really wanted the karma votes to have some effect in the final, use them as an advantage or disadvantage in the first part, in the first checkpoint, to where it doesn't completely turn the tides of this entire game. I just would rather a show that keeps on trying to push that it is about competition and has claimed to be America's 5th sport, that it would just go off of performance. Why do you feel like you can have your cake and eat it too when you add in all these reality TV-esque things, but then want to be all about competition and competition forward? Again, not a huge fan of the karma votes at all, especially used in this way. And a lot of people are going to say that Michelle was robbed out of getting second place. This could have easily been where Jenny and Rachel tie for first place. We push up Michelle to get second place. Tori gets third place. Everybody gets some sort of money. Here's the thing. If the karma votes weren't used at all to determine the winners, Jenny would have gotten first place, Michelle would have gotten second place, Rachel would have got third place, and Tori would have stayed in fourth place. But because the karma votes were introduced, were used, it's one of those things where you just kind of have to roll with the punches, like it or not, which a lot of people don't like it, including myself. Michelle had an incredible final. I feel like, if anything, this was a final that was in her wheelhouse that she could have and should have won. But it is the little mistakes that start to add up. The ghost ship checkpoint with the barrel, switching out the barrels, and then not being able to catch it in time to where she got the first check. And if she could have gotten that first check and been in that water, she would have gotten first place and she would have won. She would have just flat out won. The same thing with submerging terror. If she could have gotten second, maybe third, again, she could have won. It's the little things that start to add up, So yes, I do think that Michelle played an incredible final, an incredible game. I think that she was hindered in this karma vote because she kept on having to name targets, and that was going to hurt her no matter what. And it wasn't like it was her fault. It was actually a punishment for winning eliminations. So it's frustrating, It's frustrating that she gets knocked down from $75,000 to $25,000, not even getting second place when 2 people tied for first place, which at the end of the day, I'm kind of glad that they lumped in first and second money, because I could see a world where they're just you got to share $400,000 and then second place prize money just vanishes in the air. But at the end of the day, this is kind of frustrating because when it comes to the final, it should just be your performance. It should be nothing that happens in the regular season should affect your final performance, because this is it. This is all on you. This should be all on the players and their abilities. This shouldn't be about 32 other players who have lost over the course of the season voting for their friendships and who they like more just because. If they could have picked up karma points in a different way, like winning daily challenges or winning eliminations or something to that effect, that it's like tangible and not in the hands of somebody else, I think that this twist could have been held up better. Instead, it's another stars from All Stars 4, and I'm praying that moving forward, nothing like this will happen. And I'm saying that knowing that on the horizon, All Stars 5 Rivals will be released at the end of this month. And I'm kind of worried in the possibility that there could be another star twist or something else. But with this being the end of the season, we have 3 challenge champions crowned. We have Jordan, Rachel, and Jenny. All historical wins in different ways. Jordan, like I mentioned, his 5th challenge win, tying CT with the 2nd most challenge wins in challenge history for a single player. You have Rachel getting her 3rd challenge win, only 3rd woman to reach this mark, tying Veronica and Evelyn, and Jenny becoming a multi-time challenge champion. But I have said everything that I think I could say about this whole situation. What do you think about this final? Let me know down in the comment section below. What do you think about all the checkpoints? What do you think about how they handled the karma vote being equated to 2 checkpoints? Do you think that was too much? What do you think about the karma points overall, knowing their use in who was crowned challenge champion? How do you feel about the tie between Rachel and Jenny? Let me know anything and everything down in the comment section below. I am looking forward to reading and replying to a ton of comments in this comment section about everybody's opinion about this final and the results and everything about it. You know, I've said all that I could say, but again, just keep karma points away. You know, this is not a twist that should be used ever again. I did notice that the All Stars 5 Rivals trailer was released last night. After I get this video up, I'll be working on a breakdown to that trailer that should be up on Friday. I'm still waiting for an HD version as I'm recording this video. I'm waiting for an HD version of that trailer to be released, so that way I can get all the screenshots and have the clearest view as I'm going through each and every screenshot of that trailer. But that should be up very, very soon. Again, what do you think about this final and the season overall? Let me know down in the comment section below. I now want to give a special shout out. Thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really, really soon with more Challenge 40 content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.